We're A-Game, a 100% Black-owned company with an all-natural product and world-class customer service. We're headquartered in California, and we manufacture, package, and ship right here in the United States. We ship to more than 125 distributors worldwide. Normal processing is 2 to 3 days, and we employ virtual tracking until our product is received. So, no matter where you are in the world, here we come, and we're bringing your A-game.
Hey all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly values, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey, so we are back. Hopefully we won't be encountering these issues. Rob Mac, thank you, sweetheart. Said no weapon form. Exactly. So a bathing soul, and we back. Exactly. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to try to continue with what we were trying to say. Okay. So what we were talking about was the young lady on this documentary and saying that they had not talked about try to refresh. I don't really know what's happening at this point. I rebooted my entire system, so I'm not real sure at this point why there's issues. My internet has not been acting up at all until now. Suddenly there's some sort of issue, and OBS doesn't want to do what I need it to do. Try to see if you guys can refresh. See, I would like to just go on, but when it's doing stuff like this, I'm operating essentially blind. Like I can't really operate, if y'all understand what I'm saying. Y'all may or may not be able to hear me, but basically when it does this, I can't see my analytics, and that helps me to stream. If it's glitching and buffering, I don't know where we are, because I'm looking at it from both my end and your end. So I'm going to try not to be blind. Anyway, I'm going to see if it can straighten out or straighten itself out at some point. So we're just going to try to continue. See if you can refresh again. Yeah, I get ads played during the live stream. So that's just a little bit of insider for y'all. The way streaming is set up, it's a lot for the content creator to do. It looks like I'm just sitting here talking to y'all, but actually I'm managing the entire situation from a technical standpoint. Okay. So basically here's what we can do. Let me see if I can because I have to refresh it myself to see if that works. Anyway, let's see if we can continue, because it's kind of blind for me. Okay, so what we were trying to say is that kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, they didn't have a conversation about how they were going to take care of children. And she wanted to have children after she was pregnant, even though they were unplanned, even though this was problematic. Because one of the things that she said was that before I got pregnant, I had a little job. I was, trying to be independent. I was trying to be self-sufficient. She didn't say independent. She said she was trying to be self-sufficient. Thank you, Philip J. So I'm glad you're showing this, because the hyenas conveniently skip over the origin of the so-called Dusties and Chirac. Exactly. And I think this is important. This is an important conversation to have, because there are a lot of misconceptions. And I may start hitting on some of these misconceptions and some of these red pill, or not even red pill, manosphere talking points that I think have gotten away from everybody. Like, we like to talk about the Pookie and Ray Ray, but we don't give Pookie and Ray Ray no context. We see him like hyenas see him. We see him like palm color supremacy see him. No context. He's just a no good Negro that was born a no good Negro. And while people are responsible for their own things once they become adults, I'm not saying that there's no such thing as personal responsibility, but at the same time, we have to be able to understand the context under which these things take place. It's not happenstance. These men whose lives were turned upside down as boys growing up, we can't just take all of the context away from him and say you're still no good because you were born no good, because you want to be no good, because that's what you always were in the first place. And we can't do, if we are here in support of Black masculinity, if we are here in support of Black men, if we are here in support of Black male voices, and understanding the story of all the Black men, not just the ones white society say is worth listening to, but all of them. Even the ones that the so-called white society tell us we shouldn't like them. Them brothers' voices are worthy to be heard also. Now, we can say what we want to say about them being grown and they should have a responsibility for doing this and that. Okay. But at the same time, we're not going to ignore the cultural and environmental factors, thank you, Lou Casely, that give birth and give rise to the so-called Pookie and Ray Ray. But that's a little bit of a tangent. Let me go on. She talked about as soon as she got pregnant and had that baby, money went low. This was key because single motherhood, and this is something that I've said before, single motherhood is the gateway and the continued path of generational poverty. This is why we can't develop generational wealth as long as we black women keep up the single motherhood, I don't need no man, all of this sort of thing. If we keep this up, you can kiss generational wealth goodbye. You can kiss those lofty dreams, the lip service that you pay to black first, the lip service that you pay to wanting the black community to succeed, blah, blah, blah. Cap. And it's cap because you don't make the necessary changes. But that is putting a little bit of the cart before the horse. And I don't want to do that today. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to this report.
Steady job 2.5 years ago. He's been arrested several times on robbery and drug charges. He was brought up in Newark by his mother, who was 16 when Timothy was born. His father has another family in another city. Timothy has a talent for drawing, which he has never developed. He dropped out of high school at 16 and spent 2 years in the Job Corps. He was 23 when he and Alice had their first child. Timothy does not support any of his children.
So y'all heard that, but we're going to go forward a bit.
Alice's welfare check comes to $385 a month. She cashes it at the corner store.
Back in town now.
She gets another $112 in food stamps.
I don't think I would have had the second 2 children if I didn't think welfare was there. I don't like welfare because it makes me lazy.
It does?
Yeah, it makes you lazy just to sit around and wait for a monthly check to come in. I just like to work. I like money come in every week or every 2 weeks.
Why doesn't Timothy help?
You heard what she said. She said if welfare hadn't been there, I don't think I would have had the other 2. And that welfare makes you lazy because you're waiting on a monthly check. And I actually like to work and have money coming in every week or every 2 weeks. That was very important. That was extremely important for her to say. And then you got black women nowadays talking about, oh, that's just a stereotype, the welfare queen. We don't do that. Yes, y'all do that. And if it's not the government giving y'all this welfare check stuff, y'all are outside doing this whole transaction prostitute mindset situation where y'all are getting this money from various men that equal out to a welfare check or maybe a little more, and you getting the welfare check and the food stamps. So don't play with me like we don't know what's going on. But I'm going to skip forward quite a bit. We're going to jump ahead about 20 minutes.
That's what they're going to do too, eventually.
Who would be an example?
My family, my mother.
His mom is Brenda Warbett, 30 years old, the mother of 4 children by 3 different men. She has never been married. She raises her children alone in a daily tug of war with the street.
It's a battle. It's almost like, I think
y'all realize they said she's just 30 with 4 children by 3 different men.
most parents feel the same way. You fear for your children leaving home. They can leave out and walk right across the street and trouble can get in their way.
What's the hardest thing about being a single parent?
It's hard, understanding them sometimes, and they have difficulties understanding me because I'm a young parent, and sometimes they act like I'm their sister as well as their mother,
Brenda was just 14 when she became pregnant with Bernard, her first child. Bernard's father was 15. By the time she was in her early 20s, there were 3 more children, each unplanned. To support...
Now, let me come back. Let me come back to y'all for a second. I gotta come back to y'all for a second. She was 14 when she had her first child. The boy was 15. When they say she's got 4 children by 3 different men, they calling them men. Is a 15-year-old boy a man? Is a 15-year-old boy a man? Why do we call them men? Why are we saying that he's a man? Because that indicates that he knows better, that he's old enough to make certain decisions rationally, that he has, all of these things at his disposal to make better decisions, but he just chooses not to make better decisions. It leads you to believe that black men have always been men, like they're men from birth, not boys, and the environment around them does not contribute to anything that they do. Thank you, Cafe Puros. They gotta put something on the gas bill because Crimson Cure Stay Cooking Part 1 and 2 was the truth. Thank you. Thank you. Right? She's both of them too young. Too young to be making these types of decisions anyway. Too young to be having sex. Too young to be having children. Dropping out of school to take care of them. Stopping work to take care of them. She's able to stop working because there's a welfare check that's going to be there as a safety net for her and her children. And then there are those of us who would look at that and say, well, the man is a deadbeat, not realizing he was only 1 year older than her. He don't got no more guidance than she got. The thing that was left out carefully out of this documentary, even though this type of special, they won't even do this anymore on television, but what they carefully crafted out of the story was the crack era. That's what they left out of the story. And I didn't miss that part. I didn't miss the part where they left out the environmental factor that altered the biological and the cultural factor. Black people's biology was altered through the drugs. But how did the drugs get into the black neighborhoods? How did they get there? You didn't have a whole bunch of black men going somewhere, going to Colombia, going to all these other places, getting no drugs and bringing them back. So how did they get into the black neighborhoods? Right? How did the crack era start? It was our boomer parents that actually got caught up, which made Gen X And why did they call us Generation X? Put a 1 in the chat if you want to know why they called us Generation X. Because they leave out this part of the story. But I'm not going to leave it out. They call us Generation X because we was the unknown factor. They didn't know which way we would go. They had ruined our parents. And they had tainted the environment. They had ruined, they were in the process of a bioculturon event and didn't know whether or not it would take for us. Whether or not they could actually switch our value system to one that would make us destroy ourselves continuously, or if we would buck it. And the reason why they wasn't too sure is because Gen X, we had our problems and a lot of us fell through the cracks. I'm not even going to sit here and act like we didn't, but a lot of us didn't. A lot of us, that bioculturon event didn't take. We were the scary ones because we had a blend. We had just enough of the old value system given to us from the boomers and from their previous generation above them. We had just enough to make it an unknown, iffy situation. Is it going to take or it's not going to take? But it took enough. It was enough. Generation X was screwed up. But the problem is that we were talented and we were intelligent. And we also were durable because we actually grew up. And even though if we got caught up in our younger life, a lot of us was able to change it around. And as we got older, we actually made it through as the children of the crack era. That was important. Because for as many girls got caught up being teen moms at 14, 15, 16 years old, not all of them kept going down that road. Some of them got their head together and was like, wait a minute, I can't keep doing this. Because there was something of a value system. We had some kind of spiritual tie, spiritual value that was still inside of us. We had not completely forgotten about it. We had not completely forgotten. So because there was still something left, and we showed such resilience in the face of extreme adversities. How adverse is it when you ain't got your parents in the house because both of them are drug addicts? What is that? We was latchkey kids for a reason. We had to have keys to the house because mama was somewhere strung out and daddy was in jail. So we had to be able to go to school and come back and watch your back and watch your siblings and make sure you ate and make sure you did your homework and made sure we had to be the women and the men of the houses because mom and daddy was out of there. We needed a key to the house. So many of us was assaulted when we was young, had a lot of traumas going on for the boys and the girls, not just the girls. If your big mama was still alive, she might have been able to help a little bit. Some of us didn't have the luxury of our big mamas and big daddies. Then the gangs popped up real bad in the 80s like that. The 80s and 90s, man, you couldn't wear certain colors. Come on, that movie Colors was not completely made up. We had that, even though Colors was about LA, we had that same issue in Chicago. You can wear red and black in the wrong neighborhood if you want to. I don't care if you didn't know. I don't care. Wear red and black on the west side and come through Four Corner Hustler territory and see don't you get hemmed up. I don't care if you're a little kid. Your mama can scuffle and buy you a starter jacket if she want to. You better hope you can go to school and come back with it. Wear the wrong colors in Vice Lord territory and see what's up. I don't care if you wasn't banging. You didn't have to be involved to get caught up. That's another myth, that those of us who got caught up was actually involved in gang and criminal activity. No, we wasn't. No, we wasn't. It was actually only a small percentage of the kids and teenagers in your neighborhood that was actually banging. The rest of us just got caught up. You may not have been banging, but you know don't go over by the Henry Horner homes after 7 o'clock. Because if the vice lords around there don't know you, you in trouble. If you don't live there and they ain't been seeing you around, you in trouble. I don't care if your cousin live there. These was the facts on the ground. And I ain't never been no street girl. I ain't never been out here just in the street ripping and running with the boy. I never did that, but I knew what was up. The OGs was like the El Rukins. Then was the OG bangers. They still was actually gonna try to be your uncle on the block. If they saw a little girl and she wasn't involved in all that kind of stuff, they would kind of try to cover her. Like, nah, y'all don't mess with her. That's a good girl. Y'all don't mess with her. Or it's a boy and he really kind of a bookworm boy. He don't be about that life at all. He don't try to, they be like, nah, let him go. Let him go. It would have to be the OGs for that. Like, nah, don't rough up little man. Leave him alone. And Father Time just said something that was actually really important. He said in jail, you have to pick a side. Low key, in the hood, you got to pick a side. Low key. Listen. If you with them peoples and not with them folks, you better say that. Period. Thank you, General Tito. So I'm from the east side of Chicago, and I wouldn't have been able to come outside much unless I turned into a vice lord. Precisely. Precisely. You in Terror Town and you ain't no stone? I hate it for you. Low key, living on the west side, that was Four Corner Hustler territory where I was at. And you better rep the black and gold. Don't care if you're not banging. You better. Care nothing about you not banging. You ain't in it. Oh, okay. But you live over there though. You live over there though. Don't you go to school such and such? Don't you go to school over there? Ain't that where your mama stay? Yeah, all right. So we might clap all y'all up if it get hot enough. That's what Gen X went through. The war zone. That's why a lot of us were so traumatized. Because we watching bodies drop. Even if you not banging, you might still get caught up. You might still get ran. Your pockets ran. After school, we had to catch the buses and the L's. Stand at the wrong station if you want to. Okay. Like you can't be at the bus stop at Madison and Pulaski. Like you can't do it. Not if you don't want to get ran. You gotta stand like 2 blocks north or 2 blocks south or walk. Stand on the blue line at the Cicero station if you want to. Y'all don't understand. Why am I going into this stuff? Not to seem cool. This isn't about cool because none of that stuff was cool. But this was the reality that we lived in. Not to mention the dysfunction inside your home. So even as girls, we needed to understand the logistics that was mobility. Even the girls had to understand. We was not exempt because we was girls. In Chicago, you not exempt because you a girl. You better have hands. You better know where you at. You better know where you can't be at. You better know where the ops is at. You better know where your neighborhood stop. You better know. Thank you again, General Tito said my father was in a joint when my mom's heard a noise and I had to get up and run to the door with a battle knife. Exactly. My brother did too. Thank you again, Philip J. said, as soon as the gangs try to recruit us in the inner city, my dad said, pack it up. We out of here. Yeah. And for those who could do that, that's what they did. So this wasn't about, the girls had to understand logistics and mobility from that angle. We had ops even if we didn't make ops. If a fight broke out on the bus, y'all don't understand. If a fight broke out on the bus and it was in your hood, you better throw hands or they'll remember it next time that you didn't fight. Then you gonna get jumped. If you don't live in K-Town, don't go over there. If you don't live in Terror Town, don't go over there. If you ain't live in the projects, don't go over there. If you didn't live in Cabrini Green, if you didn't live in Stateway, if you didn't live in Ida B, if you didn't live in the Robert Taylor homes, don't go over there. Anyway, commercial break and we're going to be right back.
Happy Valentine's Day from all of us at A-Game.
If I have never needed likes before, I need them now. I got 310 faithful viewers. Only got 175 likes. Go ahead, hit the like button. I'm going to stop my rant because we have a lot to say.
Fourth them, Brenda works on and off as a nurse's aide, but she could not make ends meet without welfare. None of the children's fathers give her any financial support.
I don't understand what happens that causes so many fathers not to take responsibility for the kids they created or helped to create.
It's easier on their pockets if they can. Most of the men today don't, assume their responsibilities as they should. Not that they can't, they just don't.
Well, I'd get very mad if I were a mother. I think I would.
Oh, I get angry.
But y'all kind of hearing how he jugging a little bit though? Like I ain't missed that part. How he jugging a little bit. And she talking about it's not that they can't, they won't. At you 14 and he 15, how he won't? He just as much in a dead end as you are. And it's actually worse when a boy is in a dead end as he try to become a man. Much harder. She has welfare to fall back on. Ain't no safety net for no men, especially no black man in this country. Ain't no safety net. If he can't make it, he just can't make it. Period.
But getting angry isn't gonna solve anything. And then sometimes, their fathers, they feel like if they're going to support them, then they have to have more time with me. And I don't feel that that's really necessary,
You'd rather take the burden of the children alone than to have to...
I wouldn't rather, but I have.
What do your children mean to you?
My friends, they're my world, When I wake up in the morning, see, if you don't have a husband or a man with you, your children are always there. So you have someone to call your own. So your children will smile when nobody else will.
Do you want your kids to get married?
Sure. Especially my daughter. My boys, they'd probably be, what you call it? Freelancers.
Freelancers?
Yeah.
Like their fathers?
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
That does seem to be the pattern.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to go a little bit further because there's still a lot to go. I'm well past what I need to be doing. But in any case, we have a situation here where she wants her daughter to be married, but how? How can her daughter be married? And then she say, well, my son's probably going to be freelancers. Why do we still have this? But more importantly, let me back this up. She said her children are her friends. They're there when the men aren't there. They smile when no one else will. So they have children as a captive audience. The children are captive audiences. We still are having this issue today with black women that'll tell you the reason why she having children without the man. Not only that she'll tell you she don't need the man, but she'll tell you about the comfort that the child provide. She not having the child because she want to be a mom. She's having the child to fill a void of fulfillment that she fails to realize how to feel. She can't fulfill it. So she's looking for a means by which she can do that. The children are a coping mechanism. This is why she'll keep having them. And it doesn't matter who the fathers are. It doesn't matter if the fathers come through, take care of them, don't take care of them. She got to be on welfare, whatever the case may be. This is how you get 4 kids and 3 daddies. This is how you get 6 kids and 4 daddies. This is how you get that type of stuff. Because she's not even concerned about the man. She's concerned about birthing the child out as a codependent situation. This is what she's worried about. This is what she is concerned about. She's not even concerned about the situation that she's birthing the children into. The fact that they are going to repeat these generational curses. She's not concerned about none of that. She's only thinking about herself. So the birth of her children is 100% a selfish act. She's neither thinking about the man, nor is she thinking about the child and the future of that child. See, all of that other stuff is empty words. I want my daughters to be married. I don't want them to repeat what I did. All of that stuff is empty words, because if you didn't want them to repeat it, you wouldn't have done it. Or at minimum, you wouldn't have continued to do it. After you had your first baby at 14, wasn't that too hard? Why'd you do it again? And so by the time you in your early to mid 20s, you already got all 4 kids. 4. No man in sight. No marriage in sight. No commitment in sight. So let me go ahead. I'm going to skip forward actually quite a bit. Let me go here. So the same young lady, the Brenda young lady, is actually visiting her extended family down south. And I just want you to look at this. Thank you, Rob Max, that Black women and government is giving you the power of child raising. Break this nightmare curse. Dads are everything that's been said. Exactly. But just listen to this real quick.
Whenever I come home, I always ask questions. It's a lot that I don't know. And I'm still learning a lot about it.
But there's a lot you want to know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I want my children to know.
Why?
Because I think they should know who they are and where they come from. And what we all stand for. I just get a good feeling when I'm here, and I want to share that with my kids.
Together we stand. Right, we must fall.
Together we stand.
Yes.
You think that's true as a family?
Yes, sir.
It's hard to hold a family together, though, isn't it?
True.
I'm going to pause this screen. What's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this? Somebody put it in the chat. I paused this screen. Look at it carefully. What's wrong? Exactly. Brenda's got a baby. No men. No men. Most of the men were passed away. They were actually standing at their family's grave site, graveyard. That was just for their family. So the men are gone. The men are gone. And left with majority females. When you have no men, the women lose direction. The women lose whatever system, order, or structure that the men had placed, because it's in the nature of women to be chaotic. And so men have a constant job of making sure that the women don't give in too much to their chaotic nature and therefore derail the leadership. But if the men are passed away, there's nothing they can do. The women are left to their own devices. And then we see what happens when there are no men. Talking about you don't need no man. But then you end up with an all-female family or majority female family, and then no structure. We end up with generational poverty. We end up with a whole bunch of Pookies and Ray Rays. We end up with a whole bunch of hyena, gynocrat females. I'm going to skip forward because they're going to start talking about Brenda's boyfriend She got a boyfriend, yet another one. Thank you, Greaseman, Texas said no man present leave the community vulnerable. Exactly. My name's thank you. Say it really seems like you're talking directly to me. We love you. Thank you so much. We're gonna get back to the vulnerable community, but let me play this a little bit.
But Bernard calls this home and doesn't miss the extended family that means so much to his mother. His notion of extended family means something different. The rap group, Friends from the Street, and Brenda's boyfriend, Lamont Banks. Lamont is 31 years old, and much of what has happened over the last generation to the young black man who grew up in a broken family in the inner city is reflected in his experience. Lamont was raised in Newark by a single mother and grew up on the street. Now he has 2 children of his own who live with their mother in another part of town. He works when he can cleaning oil drums, but does not support his children or Brenda's. He has become one of Bernard's acting role models. He told us what it was like to spend his teenage years, as Bernard is doing, in the school of the street.
I grew up hard. I grew up basically being the man of my family.
Now, I'm going to let this play, but this is how you get the Pookie and the Ray Ray. This is how you get this guy. He gonna tell you his story. And I know so many people aren't interested in the stories of black men. But I'm gonna let him tell you his story.
At 13, mommy was there, but mommy was like always saying, well, she needed this, or it was hard, and sometimes we'd go in the house and didn't have no food. You know what I mean? And I couldn't take that sometimes, So I would take to the streets.
And
whatever was necessary so I could bring my mother some type of relief or help.
Steal?
If it took that.
How did you as a kid get caught up in that street life?
Hanging with a crowd.
What happened? Give me some examples.
I was going with this girl, and at 12.
Now, before we continue on, he said the most important part. Let me come back and look at y'all for a second. He actually said the most important part. The most important part he said was, at 13, I was the man of the house. Mama was there, but a lot of times we wouldn't even have no food, and I couldn't take that. And I would always hear my mother say, I need this, I need that. So what does this 13-year-old boy begin to do? I took to the street. Did you steal? Did you do this, that? He was jugging again. Dwight McManus was jugging again. But he was like, whatever I needed to do to bring my mother some relief. The son husband can't be overstated. This is 90% of the so-called Pookie and Ray Ray. See, I'm gonna speak to something. Danielle A. And I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna speak to something. Why did his father leave the home? And this is why we can't break the generational curse. That right there. That right there. Whole expose about the fathers not being no older or no more guided than the girls. The boys growing up, thank you again, Rob Mack. The boys growing up in the same hard neighborhood and circumstances that the girls growing up in. He 14, he ain't no man. He ain't no man. At 13, 14, 15, he's not a man. He don't know what it is to be a man. He ain't got no man in his life. So we should ask his mama what happened to that man. And why did she birth children with her man that wasn't around? Just like the young lady that birthed 3 children from the same guy. They was young when they started, but they didn't stay young. And she had 2 more with that same man, and he ain't held no job, and he didn't give her no indication that he wanted to be a father. 3. You're not men when you're teens. Thank you, Black Panthers. To speak that truth, sister, you're not a man. Our boys aren't born men. They boys first. They children first. And black men are not these super beings that is supposed to do something that no other human being is required to do on this planet, which is to make himself and build himself from nothing to be something. Nobody asks that of nobody else in the human family but black men. We ask that of black men. And if we thought black men was capable of doing that, then why won't we submit to them? He would be the most powerful man on the planet then, if we thought that that was possible as women. And so if we think it's possible as women for black men to do what no other man has ever had to do in the history of humankind, why we ain't submitted to him? We think he can do it, right? A young man growing up, a young boy growing up, no guidance, nothing but the street. He hungry, his mama needs something. She tell him at 12 or 13, go out and get something, and he do it. Now he about to get in trouble. He gonna be in and out of juvie. He gonna be in and out of juvie jail. He gonna be in and out of trouble. He not gonna go to school because school don't feed you. So whatever future he might have had, that's gone. That's gone. And mama don't care long as he do what she need done. And by the time he 18 and he ain't going nowhere in life, now she gonna look at him like, why you ain't going nowhere in life? Because of you. That statement, I'm sorry I'm missing super chats. Thank you, Child of Light. Said talk to him. She on fire. Thank you, Heels In. Said the opposite of Tony Montana's mother when she spit at Dirty Money, not wanting her son in that lifestyle. Thank you again, General Tito. So when I started getting money at 13, holding the pistol at the dope spot, I would sneak and put money in my mom's purse. Exactly. Exactly. Because when the boy can't make it, he just can't make it. He just a dirty dog. He just a no good. He just a deadbeat when the boy can't make it. Because it ain't no welfare system for him. It ain't no system that's a safety net for him to get up on his feet if he start life in the wrong way. Thank you, Philip J. said, woo, well said. Young ladies are lied to. Thank you, Nakishua. Ain't nothing to help a black man. Ain't nothing. If he get caught up at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, he just caught up. And if there isn't an individual man somewhere, older man somewhere that see that young boy and say, come on, let me put you under my wing. Let me try to redirect you if possible. If he don't get that, he SOL. And the older he get, the more hope he gonna lose. And when he lose that hope, everybody gonna pile on and say how much of a deadbeat he is and how no good he is. How he make nothing of himself. How he chose to be this way. This is why we ain't breaking the generational curse. Because we stand stuck. We stuck. As black women, we stuck. We stuck on the narrative that the white man gave us about our own men. Even the ones we raising in our house. The one we was pregnant with for 9 months. The one that was sucking on us to feed. We think about him the same way the white man think about him. And that's our own blood. We can't stand them no more than the system can. We hate him just like they do. We hate him. We hate him. It ain't enough no more for us to point the finger. Well, it's the black man's fault and think we supposed to be able to just sit there. Okay, even if you want to say it that way, what you gonna do to help the community that's falling around your feet? Thank you, Jay Parrott. Say I love your show. I love you too, sweetheart. What we gonna do about that part? Because the community ain't just falling around his feet. You suffering. So what you gonna do about that? Your kids suffering. What you gonna do about that? We still got women in 2022 choosing to have children on their own. Ain't no man to leave because there wasn't no family to begin with. What we gonna do about that? What we doing about that? What are we saying to the women who decide and say, okay, I'm gonna just have a kid. Ain't no man, we wasn't no family. It's a lot of black women, it wasn't no family for the man to walk away from. It wasn't no marriage or commitment. Just sliding around, you know what I'm saying? Having fun with somebody. Get pregnant. Decide, oh, I want to keep the baby. He didn't ever say he was going to be a daddy. As a matter of fact, he don't even got what it takes for you to have even wanted him to be a father. You just want the kid. So he didn't walk away from nothing. Thank you, D. Collins. Said push the like button, community support, and supporting our community. Thank you. I know I yell. Danielle, I'm not mad at you, beloved. I'm not mad at you, beloved. So please don't, I apologize if it seemed as though I was yelling at you specifically. But I was talking about your talking point. But I see what you said. That you were asking a genuine question. And it may have been genuine. But for all of those who were listening to that, I hope that y'all heard it. I'm just very passionate about what I see going on. And what I see with black women. And how we can't come out of the things that we was told. So that we could enact these changes that need to be enacted. Thank you, Luke Casey. So I absolutely understand your passion. Black women are still allowing one ideology to use them to do their dirty work. Yeah, they are. And thank you so much. I never want nobody to feel like I'm attacking them as the person. So once again, I apologize to Danielle if it seemed that I was yelling at her. So I'm not yelling at you. I'm not angry with you. But the statement did trigger me. I'm not going to lie. We have to change. This is going to go longer. Let me move on. I'm going to skip probably a good 10 minutes from this point.
A bracing dose of unsentimental love. When their own fathers are missing, kids need someone else to stand in, to practice damage control as the street take over. For these kids, that someone is Detective Shahid Jackson of the Newark Police. He came by his street smarts the hard way.
Well, I came up out of the streets, so I know how to get around a lot of that stuff. And I guess the older you get, the more you learn. I was fortunate enough coming up that I never got caught. And I grew out of the streets, but yet I still have some of the street in me.
There was a time when he wasn't sure he would make it off those streets. He was an unmarried father at 18, and he had his share of troubles. But he was raised by two parents. His father was a Baptist minister, and they pushed him to make something of himself.
On Sunday morning on my block, you would see each family almost coming out going to church. You know, you don't see that anymore, the family unity.
When he was 21, Shahid Jackson joined the police department. Although he handled security for us while we were in Newark, his beat is the kid.
I was just going to say he looked like Damon Wayans. But the key here was he was going down the wrong road too. But the difference was that he had a two-parent home and his father started pushing him. Not my son. Then he said something very key. You used to see the families getting up, going to church in the morning. And you don't see that anymore. You don't see the family unity anymore. I'm going to skip just a minute or so ahead. Thank you, D. Collins. This information helps our community to become strong. It's important to not just hit the super chat, which is welcome, but if you can't push the like button, it's free.
Somebody has to say, no, you cannot do this.
A lot of these kids grew up with nobody saying no.
Right.
Do you think it's important for them to have men around?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you have a one-parent family and there's a mother, she cannot teach you all of the things that a man can teach a son. There's no way.
So where do they learn the routine techniques of just daily work and living? They don't.
Unless they get it from their parents, they get it from the streets.
How do these kids on the streets make it?
He could either be a stick-up man if he stays in the streets. He could be a mugger. He could be a drug dealer. There's so many different things. Like you get a kid that's a good boxer, and a drug dealer may say, hey, you want to make so much money a day? Just make sure nobody stick up my man here.
He becomes a soldier for the drug dealer.
Or a strong arm, you know.
Helping to protect the drug dealer.
Helping to protect him. Because if he can make $100 a day or $60 a day just standing there watching something, then, you know, he does it. That's the battle that you got to deal with. You know, that's the war, to try to convince them that that stuff isn't, in the streets, isn't what's in their best interest.
And that is what you have to convince them of. And he said the thing that I wanted to point out right here was he was trying to say how women alone cannot raise men because they can't give a boy what the father is going to give him. Thank you, Stefan, said the black woman or the backbone of the community. And thank you, Noire, says exactly, says, hope we can do some work together, Newark, Brick City. Okay. All right. I want to look at just a couple of more things.
What do you think about welfare?
Welfare.
That happened a lot? mother gets public assistance and helps the guy on the side?
I don't know if you would say they help them, but, you know, it's a lot of guys that I know that just goes around looking for welfare mothers. And they may have 6 of them like that and get a little piece of money out of each of them. That's their job. You know, that's their hustle.
What do you think about welfare?
Welfare, to me, some people need it. You know, I'll be for real. Some people really actually need it. And then others take advantage of it.
Sandra Alice told me yesterday that she thinks welfare has made her lazy.
Yeah, because it's there. You know that your food is going to be there every month, because with the welfare finance come food stamps. Then you get Medicaid to cover your medical expenses. Welfare is doing everything. You're married to welfare, a lot of the women's. They're more married to welfare than the guys laying in the bed next to them, because he's just a physical thing. The whole backbone of the family is coming out of downtown or out of uptown offices.
Government office.
Yeah.
Does this...
Did y'all hear that young man say that? Y'all hear that young man say that? That young man said you're married to the welfare. You married to the welfare. You married to the backbone of the family coming out of the downtown offices. You more married to the government than you is to the man laying right next to you. If that ain't the truth, I don't know what is. If that's not the absolute truth, I don't know what is. You don't get no more truer than that. You don't get no more down to the nitty gritty than that. He said it all. And the reason why I'm harping on it is because we got women today that still think that. She still operates. He just a physical body. I don't need him. That's why they say it. I don't need no man. That's why they say it. Because I get my food from the government. I get my rent paid or subsidy from the government. I get my medical expenses paid from the government. I just need him there for the physical warmth. And he put these babies in me. That's why it was a womb hustle. That's why it was a welfare hustle. That's why. And these women want to get up here and cap like that ain't what it was. That is what it was. That was exactly what it was. So when we say she kicked the man out of the house for welfare, and then they come up, why would we kick the man out of the house for welfare? This why? Because if I feel like it ain't no consequences for whether you leave or stay, then I don't care whether you leave or stay. This is where that insubordination, I ain't gonna submit attitude came from, because it ain't no consequences when you leave. I'm sorry this went over. If everything I get is coming from the government and these welfare programs, what's the consequence of you? All the government want me to do is come down there once every so many months, sign a little paper to renew what we doing, tell them if I got another kid or not, and update them on my address if you do that. Thank you again, Miss Bukesi said thank you for the needed overtime. You're so welcome. Let them know if my address changed. That's all they want. Especially back then. And the only way for me to keep it is because they were still doing social worker stuff in 86. Don't let them tell you they wasn't doing that. They were still sending out social workers to make sure there wasn't no man in that house. That's why they kicked the man out of the house. Why would we kick a man out of the house for welfare? It's because of that. Let's move a little further. We're going to move past this young man here.
I hate to lose it. I never would have started working with kids if, for me to walk away from it, I feel like I lost.
Dr. George Jackson is a practicing psychologist who teaches at Howard University. He is blind. 3 days a week, he counsels Newark kids referred to him by the courts and the social workers. Dr. Jackson cannot see, but he has heard over and over what the breakdown of the family means to children.
We see depression. We see terrible anger. We see a lack of expectancy.
What are they angry about?
Children are born without any understanding as to how to manage their feelings, and it's through the training and teaching that these foundations are set. Children who are the children of children are not being trained to understand how to manage their feelings. So they want when they want what they want when they want it. And when they don't get it, they get angry.
I talked to a young man yesterday, 30 now. Well, he described what happened to him when he was 15, how he took a baseball bat to somebody who'd messed with his girlfriend, how he actually shot somebody who had spit on him. What causes that hair trigger emotion?
If you have no respect for life, you then will try to destroy or dismantle another person. It won't matter to you. Such a person doesn't have a conscience. And I think that, again, we don't have the foundations. The foundations weren't set.
We've talked to one 27-year-old father. He has 7 kids he's not caring for. 7 kids by several different women. Why? Why does that happen?
If you're a rolling stone, and if the father before you was a rolling stone, or there are no values to constrain you from this behavior, then you have, you do this and you do it with impunity.
It becomes a badge of honor?
Right, and it's the only badge of honor that you expect to get.
Do they feel any...
That was so important. He mentioned no value system to constrain you from certain kinds of behavior. No value system. We know he talking about this. That's what we lost. That's what we were in the process of losing here during the time of this report. We were losing that. It had almost slipped beyond our very fingers completely, like sand in an hourglass. And he said it's the only badge of honor he can expect to get. Because he ain't going to get no accolade nowhere else for no other reason at all. I'm going to let the man continue because he said something else that was very important.
Sense of guilt over their impotence as fathers?
No. Not the kind of guilt that would be we're breeding a society more that will destroy itself.
So people say, well, that doesn't bother me. I mean, as long as they stay in Newark and shoot each other, and mug each other, and screw each other, so what do I care?
But what goes around comes around. It may appear that these individuals are on reservations, they're isolated, but you cannot really divorce yourself from what happens to other people in this country. And if you design a society, a sub-society where people will annihilate themselves, it won't be long before this becomes a disease that infects the entire population.
You don't think we can run to the suburbs anymore?
No, I think you can run, but you can't hide.
I thought that was important. When you said you can run, but you can't hide. Let's go here.
Absolutely doing nothing. That's the problem.
Why, what's happened to those young men?
By your parents. Your parents said, Bill, you better not do that. Don't put that plug over there. You're going to get hurt, a whipping, right? Your parents did it. Well, if the parents don't know anything, how are they going to teach the children? Now, if we have a generation of that kind of thing happening and the kids are coming up under that, then we got another generation of lost young people.
Why are there so many single-parent households?
Have you been walking the streets in Newark lately? All our young men are out on the corner, just absolutely doing nothing. That's the problem.
Why, what's happened to those young men? What's happened to the black man?
It's like they've given up. It's like they're really not a part of what's going on.
Why are they not? Why have they given up?
There aren't that many jobs, okay, for the laborer like there used to be. And they're just totally unmotivated. And society has made living for the women without the husband or without the male easy.
Oh?
Yeah, welfare. I think welfare is not the best thing for everybody.
Tell me why.
Okay. And she said a mouthful right there. Right there. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the therapist, the individual he was speaking to, the brother that was blind, said, well, go around, come around, and you think you can run, but you can't hide. Basically, what he's saying is you planted a seed here, but you're going to have to reap that harvest for yourself. Not going to be able to run to the suburbs. You're not going to be able to get out of this because you planted a seed not only in the black community, you planted it in society. We're not a vacuum. We're not living in a bubble away from American society. We're part of American society. And you planted a heck of a seed over here with us. You're going to have to reap that harvest, sir. And he said it so nicely. He said it so nicely. You can run, but you can't hide. You're going to have to reap this harvest. It's going to be your kids. It's going to be your women. It's going to be your broken households. And what are they complaining about in 2022? That was 1986. What they complaining about now? The opioid crisis. You got white men here on YouTube talking about how feminist the women are. How the women are running around trying to tell them they don't need them. And all the other manner of foolishness that they thought that they could contain only within the black community. And it began to spill out onto their shoes and they don't like it. But let's talk about what this young lady is talking about right now. She's talking about what happened to the black men. She said they're unmotivated because there ain't no jobs. They're not a part of what's happening. She's seeing how black men have been ostracized really out of society and even out of the black community themselves. This is when the community became black women and their children and not men. This is when it happened. This is when it happened. In the 70s and the 80s. This is when men became not a part of the black community, and the black community began to consist only of black women and children.
Because it provides you with some kind of income that you sooner or later just settle for. I know I was on welfare. I've been on welfare.
Are you suggesting that we do away with welfare?
No, I'm saying it has to be upgraded. For instance, I have some young people here that are on welfare, okay, but would like to work. But they can't work and make a coin because everything you make is taken away from your check.
Can you push the solution even further back?
She just told you the trap of welfare. That was the trap of welfare. See, we knew the traps. We just stay getting caught in them. Because we don't want to change. We don't want to break the generational curse. We knew the trap. We know them then and we know them now. The trap of welfare is that you can accept the check, but you can't go work because they're going to take it. And the jobs that you find, actually, you still be needing that assistance to help you with the ends meeting. Okay? To help you with covering everything. Because the jobs aren't going to pay you that much. You're undereducated. You only got your high school diploma. You're not going to get that much. So even though if I go and work full time, I still might actually need the food stamps. I still might actually need the couple of $100 that you're giving me. But they take it and make you choose. Either way, you're not going to get ends meet. Right? So if I'm not going to get ends meet, whether I work or whether I sit here, I might as well sit here. Why am I spending 40, 45, 50 hours a week to go in there and make less money than I would on welfare? I might as well get the welfare. Do you understand the trap of welfare? She gonna tell you what the solution is too.
Is there any way to stop the cycle of teenage pregnancies?
That's so difficult to even talk about. In my heart, I think I have a solution, and I know, it may rub people the wrong way. But I believe that teenage pregnancy cannot be stopped by programs. It has to be morals, and morals come from God. And somewhere along the line, the black family kind of strayed away from that. And I believe we need it.
You say the moral values have changed.
Oh, yes. It's morally acceptable to have babies. It was not morally acceptable years ago. That's hurting the black family.
What I hear you saying is that even though racism may have brought about these circumstances, even those...
Now you gonna hear him try to apologize and do that white man's burden type of situation. See, he started jugging round about the middle of this whole report. But we ain't even gonna get to how he tried to jug the situation. We're not even gonna talk about him right now. What we are gonna talk about is the spiritual value. The thing she said was missing in the value system was this. That was missing. The spiritual foundation. Black family lost it. And that is how we transitioned from the 10 life values to the lost value system, because we lost hold of morals. Morals is not only spiritual. Morals is biological. Remember, biology is moral, culture is ethics, and environment is legal. Y'all better start getting these words, catching these words when people say these words and what they talking about. Because she's not only talking about the 10 life values, she's talking about the biological component. Yes, she's talking about spiritual. Yes, she's talking about morals. But morals make up the biology. And our biology changed. Because once we didn't accept spirituality anymore, what is spirituality within the lost value system? It is a state of no truth. So we stopped believing the truth and we began to believe narratives and lies. So she told us that the spiritual component was missing. Now, there was a round table that was the conclusion of this. I'm going to let them talk for a little bit.
So far, we've listened this evening to the people who are actually living the experience that was the subject of this broadcast. Now we want to hear from some people who come at the issue from different angles. With me are the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Charles Knox, who was born and reared in Newark and is now director of police there. He introduced me to Shaheed Jackson, whom Director Knox personally assigned to the police athletic program in Newark. Eleanor Holmes Norton, who once chaired the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and is now professor of law at Georgetown University. And Dr. Glenn Lowry, professor of political economy at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard and a member of the Council for a Black Economic Agenda. Dr. Lowry, as you listened to those voices, what went through your mind?
Well, I was deeply moved. I was impressed with what I perceived to be the great strengths of character in some of the individuals. I was dismayed at what I perceive as the profundity of the problem that confronts us. I was encouraged by some of what I heard said, particularly the emphasis on values. The strength and the helping hand that I saw coming from some people indigenous to that community made me hopeful about the possibilities that we can, even at this late date, still make a significant dent in the problem. But realistically, I was also chastened by the sense of the fact that we've got an awfully long way to go. It'll be decades before we can actually turn the circumstance around.
What do you think, each of you, what do you think can be done to break the cycle of children born of children born of children? The third generation, as you saw in the film, of teenage mothers in one family. What can be done practically, specifically?
This is not like any other social problem that has ever arisen in this country. This is not like unemployment. This is not like teenage delinquency. This is not even like children who can't read. This is a conundrum. This is a I want to get to. I want to describe the beast before I try to get to the remedy. When you have a phenomenon as complex as to have cut to the very heart of the most basic institution in society, the family, you have got a real problem on your hands. There's no question that the mobilization, internal mobilization of the black community, as if their life depended on it, because it does, is the first priority. But we've got to understand as well what the context is. The social and moral context goes against what is happening in the United States today. Sex and crime and undisciplined forces surround the black community, do not emanate from it.
Comes in through the tube every night.
Comes in through the tube, is piped in 1,000 different ways.
Now, because that stretches, I'm not going to let it play all the way through. I'm going to skip a little bit. But as you hear, each one of these people will hit on biology, culture, and environment as a component that changed our value system. But they can't say biocultural because they can't think of it. Even though each one of them will name those components, but separately. They hadn't thought to bring it together. This is why my many hats off, my many thanks, and the gratitude comes to Father's Time for giving us the phrase and the concept and bringing it together for us to tell us that it was biocultural, a confluence of all three things changing at one time in a very short amount of time, one generation typically, to change an entire value system of a whole group of people. We need to give that brother his flowers. Go ahead and give Father's Time his flowers right now in this chat. because we have minds at this table. The only one that understands it is the white guy. I guarantee you. And he won't say it. He's the only one that understands the synergistic component between moral, ethics, and legal. What we would call biology, culture, and environment. He know what it is. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit.
Young people. The first generation by age 15 has watched 18,000 hours of television, about 700,000 murders, 20-odd thousand hours of radio, less than 11,000 hours of school, and less than 3,000 hours of church. So who has the maximum access to our children's minds? Mass media has more access and makes a greater impression than home, church, and school combined. That's a kind of centralization of our society, where very central messages are being fed in, saying that babies making babies. The idea of a girl thinking that being pregnant is a beautiful profile as a sense of being, of looking all right. That says that the decadence has hit a point where we must en masse join hands and stop finger pointing and go another way.
It's not only that, it's the music. You know, even our music. Every song you hear, there's no...
What Jesse was talking about was culture. Right? Culture versus the institution. The battle between culture and institution. What he was talking about was those two avenues changing the biology, changing the way the children thought. What they were getting culturally fed and what they were getting fed in the institution of school.
No real message except more sex, more a lowering of your values and morals. You can't even hear a good song. The song has a good beat, but you listen to the words are outrageous.
Director Knox, you heard in the beginning of the broadcast some of the young women say male figures are not essential. They don't think their children need a father. Did that ring true to you on the basis of your experience with these kids?
I think that a family means a husband and a wife. Yeah. So I'm very, very perplexed, to hear females say that they don't believe that they need to have a man around.
I think people say what they have to say. These women don't have any prospect of marriage, and so they have rationalized their lives the way they see them. We saw women who are surrounded by other women in the prior generation who also had no husbands. And this has become, therefore, intergenerational and expectable. And thus they say what indeed turns out to be, at least for them, quite realistic.
That's one concern.
And I like that she said that. She basically saying, listen, they got to justify the foolishness that they done stepped into. They got to justify it now. They don't got no prospects. They're not going to be able to change it around. They done already messed up. So they got to say, I don't need no man to cover the tracks of the stupid decisions that they continue to make. And not only them, that they pass down to make. And I told y'all that they rather do that than be wrong. That is the essence of sign language. What she just said is the essence of sign language. This was the true birth of sign language. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. Because she lost what? Hope. She lost hope. Let me actually come out of this. let me speak to y'all for a little bit. Because I got to start wrapping this up. Black women. This is why I talk to you the way I do. This is why I speak the way I speak, in the tone that I speak, the way that I speak, and say what I say. Because if we don't begin to change, nothing changes. Like I said before, pointing the finger at the black man and saying it's his fault don't absolve you of nothing. That don't get you out of the jam you in. That don't stop the problems that you're having in your life. That don't stop nothing. It don't stop the generational curse. It don't stop the generational poverty. It don't stop your kids from needing their father, even though you swear to God they don't. It don't stop your daughters from seeing you mess around with a bunch of different dudes and she grow up to do the same thing, and then you trying to figure out why she doing what you doing, because you doing it. Boop, because you doing it in front of her face. That's why. It ain't stopped your son from getting caught up in these streets out here. He just getting caught up a different way. So sitting back, pointing the finger, sitting back, believing in these narratives and all of that foolishness, that ain't helping nobody. So how we gonna help? Have we just thrown up our hands and say, just forget it then? Is that what we've done as a group of women? Just throw your hands up. Just throw your hands up, you know, whatever. We done gone so far down the path of unrighteousness, the path of no truth and lies and all this other kind of stuff. We done gone so far down that path that we might as well just keep on going down that path. Ain't no way, ain't no reason to look back or do none of that stuff. We just gonna keep on going. Is that what we've done? Because the reality is it's time for us to understand bioculturon. It's time for us to understand the actual synergistic effect of that. It's not just one thing. It ain't just the music. Because that's culture. It ain't just the school or just the legal system or just the institutions, because that's the environment. It ain't just the biology where we having problems at, black women. We don't want to change the way we think. That's our problem as a group. We don't like to try to change the way we think. We like thinking the way we do because it gives us the comfort and the green light to continue in the foolishness that we want to continue into. That's what it is. We content in the foolishness. We like it. You done threw your hands up because we have given up hope. We've given up hope. We've given up on humility. We don't have none of that. We run around here so arrogant and haughty, loud and wrong, strong and wrong, typing out stuff, getting on panels, saying stuff like we know something and don't know a thing. You don't know your elbow from a hole in the ground. That's the problem. We've given up on the honest. We don't have no accountability and no responsibility for any of the parts that we play in any of it. We would rather tell folks that we ain't never played no part in none of this, and it has all been black men, and the part that ain't been black men has been white society, and it's black men fault for being tread under the wheels of white society. They fault. Ain't nothing our fault. I still ain't never heard no hyena come up with any kind of and say, you know what? I may not be a pick-me, but us black women do got problems, and these is a few of them. Thank you once again, Rob Mack. We've given up on praise. We no longer take a look at the positive things that black men do, that our children do. Nothing. We always trying to guilt somebody into doing what we want them to do, or doing what we think benefits us directly. Hate to see when a black man do well and it don't benefit you, so you got a problem with it. And lastly, we have given up on empathy. We no longer see black men as a part of us. We think we are a completely different entity than them. And because of that, and because we think we better than them, we don't have no empathy for anything that they go through, anything that they say they go through. If black men do come up and say, you know, I'm going through this hardship, you know, these things is going on, we real quick as a group of women to come up and say they whining and crying. These men get on here every day and cry. For real? You've been crying to the arms of Oprah and anybody that'll hear you for the last 40 years. Now that man can't come up and say, you know, well, you know, this has been hard for us. I'm black men. How long y'all gonna get on here and cry? How long y'all gonna get in here and talk about women? How long y'all gonna get in here and cry about women? For as long as it takes, because you obviously can't see. You don't know what's going on. You refuse to see what's going on. He's trying to let you know, I want to come to you for some comfort, but you don't got no empathy. So you don't care what he go through. And now you done got so bold as to tell him that to his face. We don't care what you go through. We don't care what you want. We don't care what you need. We don't care what you have needed. Just be successful enough for us to benefit. And if you ain't, get out my face. You a failure. Get out of my face. This is how we break the generational curses. When we go from sign language to hope, that's the breaking of the generational curse. When we stop needing to be right in every instance, no matter what, and have a little humility, take some responsibility, praise instead of guilt, and have some empathy for the men that look like you. You raising them up in your house and ain't got no empathy for them. How do you do that? How do you do that? Today's show was brought to you by A-Game, a male herbal solution with 21 wonderful herbs and no artificial ingredients. So fellas, if you are looking to be on your A-game, and ladies, if you want the men in your life to be on their A-game, all you got to do is click the link at the top of the chat at agameherbal.com, and you can get a 10% discount using the code Kendra10, and this box of awesomeness will be delivered to you ASAP. I want to thank everyone for their very generous donation. Thank you, Pool Counter Boxing. So I'm not on no cult stuff, but we love our Crimson Cure. Thank you so much. I love y'all too. Okay, I don't think I missed nobody else because I don't like missing y'all super chats. But I want to thank everyone for their very generous donations and contributions, both through super chat and through Cash App. And I want to thank y'all for sticking with me through the YouTube issues and the network issues. I just want to thank y'all so much. And I also want to thank my team, without which none of this is possible. So a very warm thank you to my team and support system. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Crimsonites. Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.